Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Eric here. I am joined today with Tyler from Alpha Shares, one of the co-founders of Alpha Shares. And today we're going to be talking about their Alpha Mining Co. So their NFTs, all related to Bitcoin mining, antimony refining. We made a previous video on it, but today we're going to be diving into some of the questions and some of the updates that they've had over the last few days. So just before we get into it, it's actually Tyler and I's first time chatting on video. So I'll just let Tyler introduce himself and then we can go from there.
Took the words out of my mouth. We didn't even talk about this before we started. I was going to say, hey, it's great being first time on video. Other two co-founders, John and Bert, they ended up getting that with you first. Kind of pissed about that, man. I mean, we've been talking for so long and I didn't get a video call with you until now. But no, I'm really happy to have, be on the stage with you and have you being a big supporter of us and everything that we do. So yeah, CEO of Alpha Shares, co-founder with John, but we since have expanded operations, obviously, not just the marketplace, but now everything we're doing down in Paraguay. So we've got a few other co-founders starting this business with us. The team has definitely grown. And you've met already, for the viewer, you've met two of those already, John and Bert, on the previous interview that you did with them. So very happy to be here as well, answer any questions, kind of go over a recap of we've started the Mint, and the Mint has gone live now with just whitelist. We are opening it up to the public next week in just a few days. And so I think that it's exciting to talk about how it's currently gone and what the plan is for next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you who haven't actually seen that interview with John and Bert, I'm going to leave a link in the description below so you guys can go check that out. We on that show, we were actually talking about more on the antimony side of things. So if that's something you guys missed, then definitely check that out. So I guess the first thing we can kind of talk about is how has the Mint been going? So I know you guys launched on March 7th, I believe it was. So it's been a few days now. And just if you want to go into the details of how that's been going for you guys.
Absolutely. So we did launch on March 7th. So it was on last Tuesday. And that was a Mint that was first only opened up to, it was about 500 wallets. And so we had about 3 or 4 weeks that we went and reached out to a bunch of different communities, partnered communities, VIPs within our own, people that held certain NFTs or roles. And they were all whitelisted to go ahead and mint. We did allocate the Mint over allocated. So we reached out to the people. We had multiple forms that were filled out to determine who wanted their wallet whitelisted and how many NFTs did they want. If every single person minted the NFTs that they had allocated for themselves, we would have been minted out. That's totally understandable, though. It's hard to assume that that's going to be the case. Obviously, that's the goal, and that would have been amazing. But at the same time, a lot of people have a different play. Maybe they were planning on minting 3 or 4, let's say 4, but they only wanted to mint 2 up front, see, hey, how are things going? And then I'll mint the next 2. So everyone has their own strategy, and we can't be the determination of that. And we can't blame anyone for how that works. And so we're just very happy that we managed to get over $1 million in mints practically in combination with what our own company put in, hitting over 1,100 mints, or really over 1,000 mints in the first 24 hours. We're now over, we're at 1,125 mints with 1,875 left. Mm-hmm. Being able to do that with just about 500 wallets and under 200 holders is amazing. And so this goes, it's a good testament to us to show that, hey, the people that we've talked to from a very tight-knit, closed group perspective, they're super excited about this. And we've managed to mint out over 1/3 of the collection with just them. So what happens when we open this up to the public? And where this is a reserve, more exclusive round, a lot of people are like, hey, I thought this was never going to go to public. And if it didn't have to, it wouldn't, right? If we could have everyone minted out in this private round and the multiple whitelist phases we're doing, that would be awesome. We'd love to support those that support us most. But at the same time, it's in everybody's best interest to mint out quickly. We're not going to wait on the whitelisters. We're not going to say, hey, we're going to give you all the time in the world. No, it's exclusive, but that's also not, it's not forever, right? It's something that we have to get minted out soon. The sooner we do, the sooner we can deploy the funds. And so we've got a couple tricks in our sleeve that I'll bring up here later in the interview about what we're doing next week to hopefully mint out very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, I know I was looking at it live when it launched on March 7th, and Ethereum gas fees went literally through the roof. It was like back in 2021 when I was paying, $80 per transaction for a $20 NFT. So definitely there was a lot of volume coming in.
Yeah, it was crazy. Well, there was a bit of the gas actually spiked from people just trying to access and approve the contract right as our developer was trying to let it go live and unlock the mint. and it actually failed the transaction to unlock the mint because gas shot up, and the gas that we had set on the transaction, it failed. And so people were trying to mint and they couldn't. And then the moment it opened up, it was insane. It was wild. And that goes to show, see, that there are some people in the whitelist that were like, hey, it's over allocated. I'm going to mint everything because I think it's going to mint out. And it's really cool to see the kind of social or psychological dynamic between people. Some of them thinking, oh my God, I got to get in early with everything. It's going to mint out right away, versus some holding back. And then it's a big learning experience for us too. It's really fun.
Yeah, that's true. So just looking at the ones that are minted right now. So 1125 minted, and if I remember correctly, you guys had minted 720 before opening it up to the whitelist, right?
And that was including OTC deals, though. So
Okay.
out of what we had for our company, what we minted with Momentum and Alpha shares, which that money has gone into the operations, so we still have to count that as locked funds. And that was for 435. So it's 395 to Momentum and 40 that went to Alpha shares. But out of, so that's 435. But then there was 720 total. So what is that? About another 225, I think that is, if I did my math correctly, that was minted OTC before we went and opened up the sale. And that was for big project partners that stand out, and we really wanted to support, make sure we get them in early in case it does mint out very quickly. You're secured.
Yeah. And so I know you guys have different phases now. So initially it was only the people who are whitelisted. Now you guys have opened it up to like a more of a wider audience. And I know in the next coming days, you guys are going to be opening it up to a bit more people. So you want to just touch on those different phases and exactly what are your guys' plans for next week?
Absolutely. So we had from Tuesday until Thursday, it was a 48-hour period. That was the initial whitelist. Like I mentioned, those were about 500 wallets from people that manually had filled out forms that we whitelisted manually. And that went pretty well, over a third minted. We've since opened it up on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So for just the past, I guess actually right now, 48 hours it's been.
Yeah.
And that's been opened up to anybody that trickles in, somebody that owns either an alpha token, any amount of alpha token, any amount of mass token from our Momentum DeFi project, or holds an alpha pack NFT. And so if you hold any of those components of our ecosystem, we're going to automatically whitelist you. It's a bit more of a trickle because we also understand that that's about 1,500 wallets. Not everybody's going to mint. Each wallet we add costs us gas. And so instead of us blowing, a few grand to whitelist all 1,500, we're allowing basically anyone up until Tuesday. That's why we're putting a little bit more time on it, because it's a little bit more casual. Hey, those of you that support us before we open this up wide, and with a couple features we talked about before we went live on the recording, I'll mention here in a second, it's going to be really impactful. And so we want to make sure that we support the people that currently hold bits of our ecosystem. They can mint all the way up until Tuesday at 10 a.m. And those have been trickling in. We've had about 115 or so mints in the past 48 hours. So it's looking pretty good, but we'll see when that gets exhausted. And either way, we've been doing a lot of different AMAs with other communities, really kind of gathering those partnerships as well with other projects that are offering mining in other areas of the world to get them to be hosted with us, as well as integrate their communities with ours. And so as we're doing this, it's really creating a lot of hype that, coinciding with Tuesday and opening it up to the general public with reducing a barrier to entry, hopefully having, and I might as well just say it now, hopefully having the ability to mint with a credit card, that is going to really explode things.
So minting with a credit card. So I'm going to be able to take my credit card from my bank and just log into click mint now, and then there's going to be an option for me to go here, connect my, well, I guess I'm not going to be connecting a wallet if I'm using a credit card. So there's going to be an option, pay with credit card here, and you're going to be able to click that and then use your credit card.
Yep. So it's going to be using, well, we have a couple of different potential APIs, if you will, or services that we could use. I'm very confident, I think, in the one that we're going to use, but I don't want to say it just in case it doesn't end up being the one that we're going to use, because there's about 4 or 5 that are really good. We all know about MoonPay on OpenSea, but there are a few others, and we're going to be having it. So yes, you can either mint with your wallet, you can mint with the credit card. The way that these credit card minting services work, though, is they sometimes have their own custodial wallet. So if you mint with a credit card, it gets stored with them, and then you can go send it out to your MetaMask. But some of them also have the ability to plug in your MetaMask, where you mint with a credit card. Basically, what that's doing is it's payment processing your credit card transaction to purchase whatever amount of USDC. In this instance, if it was Ethereum Mint, it'd be purchasing the right amount of Ethereum. This instance, it purchases 1,000 USDC. It then sends that 1,000 USDC to our contract for a mint, and then in return, we send back an NFT. And so to us, it's relatively the same thing. The company, the minting contract, is receiving $1,000 USDC. The person, though, the barrier to entry is rather than them having to figure out on ramp, getting their MetaMask loaded, they could just buy it with their credit card. It'll either be stored on their custodian wallet for that service, or they can automatically send it to their MetaMask or Ledger. A lot of reasons people use this too is they don't want to have to mint on a MetaMask that might have signatures or connections to other dApps or other contracts. And so they want to have a very cold storage ledger that's never been connected to anywhere before. And you can just have that plugin basically purchase with credit card, the NFT, and shoot it straight to that cold storage wallet. So it's never going to be touched by anything extraneous.
Okay. And so I'm like thinking of a million different questions here about the credit card. So how is it? Because if it's going through, it's obviously going through a third party, but what about fees, like credit card fees? Because I know like MoonPay, Simplex, all of them charge their own fees. So I guess that's an additional fee to go ahead and mint that NFT.
That is, and that's just something that's, has to be seen, right? And someone would have to eat that fee. Either it's going to be, the person that's spending the money, which is typically what it is. It's not the seller. It's always going to be the buyer.
Yeah.
And that's the case with anything, right? If you're going to be buying, I even have a whole rental portfolio of properties, and we offer a property management software that allows our tenants to pay either with direct bank transfer. There's no fees. They just can pay their rent. Or if they pay with a credit card, well, then there's the traditional 2.8, 2.9% fee. And that's just, it is what it is, right? It's your own obligation to be able to, maybe it helps your finances, maybe you're gaining points on your credit card, or maybe you don't have the funds available at the current moment. You know that you've got accounts receivables of a ton coming in, but you're like, hey, I'll just toss it on the credit card for now. It's worth me eating up that 2.9%. So that's just up to the consumer completely.
Yeah.
But what we've noted is that almost every mint we've seen that opens up the ability to allow credit card minting, it's done substantially well. And that's because there is still the massive barrier between Web 2 and Web 3.
Yeah,
Getting onto
absolutely.
MetaMask.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like most people don't even have a MetaMask wallet. And if they, start hearing about crypto and they start hearing about wallets, exchanges and all that, they're like, what am I doing here? But if they can use their credit card and mint something and buy something right off their credit card, then it makes it so much more accessible and easier to buy. So that's going to be interesting to see how what happens when you guys implement that. And you said that was coming next week.
Well, so this is where I'll put a little disclaimer here. You're the first person that I've spoken about with it, or spoken to this about. But I think that it's something that we are pushing to have go live on Tuesday with the public sale. I don't see that it'll be an issue to get that live by then. But at the same time, development is not my silo. I'm the CEO, not the CTO. And so we're conversing, back and forth with John, our CTO. He's actually working on it right now as we speak. And so it looks like it's not going to be an issue to get out by then, but we haven't even promoted it yet. So we'll even keep it under wraps, not even talk about it until it's ready to go. So anyone that's listening to this video, you guys are the first to really hear this and kind of see that this is what's coming out. We are really having this as a high impact for being able to see a real increase in mints when this hits public, right? The fact that it's $1,000 NFT, it comes with a high barrier to entry. It comes with an innate exclusivity because of its price. It's also exclusive because of its offering. So it offers, the addition of antimony trioxide refining and that component of its rewards. The other NFTs in the public round that are much cheaper, they don't. So there's many assets or aspects and facets to this reserve round that make it exclusive, even if its ability or it has the ability to be minted by the general public. But really reducing those other barriers to allow more people to get in. Again, I'll say it again. I'll say it as many times as I need to. A lot of people won't say this, but it's in everyone's best interest to mint out as quickly as possible. We don't want to see this, and we don't even see this as a way of, oh, we only minted a third. Oh my God, we only minted $1 million, which was a third, which is just insane to me. Like, it's insane that we even managed to mint $1 million. And it's insane to say that we're shooting for 3. But because we've already hit 1 million with only 500 people, less than 200 wallets, opening this up to public, reducing those barriers to entry really shows us that it's going to be difficult for us to not see this assumption come true. But the other point to that too, what this is coinciding with, and this is something too that your viewers are going to hear this first, depending on when you release this video. I know you're gonna have to do some editing on it and stuff, so we'll see. But first, now I talked about it, and I love this. I love to give you the privy information because you've been such an awesome supporter of ours. But we're also going to be releasing new milestones that are going to be external. Hopefully, you don't hear the sirens in the background.
Yeah, I do. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, massive fire truck just going right by. But we are going to be opening up new milestones. That's going to be both. We're working on a couple. One's going to be. Let me close the door real fast.
Yep.
We're going to be opening up a couple milestones. They're going to be both internal milestones. So what the team is hoping to achieve in terms of mints and what we deploy the capital therein once we hit those numbers. But more than that is we're going to open up some milestones for the public. So we know we're going to get a lot of new eyeballs on the project, a lot of new people looking at this. And so we love the concept of bounties. And so what we're going to do is, I'm not announcing exactly what that quantity is going to be, but at certain mints, we're actually going to give just cash deposits back to the people that mint. So let's say you mint a certain number, you're going to receive a certain amount of USDC back, and it's pretty substantial. So we have the ability to do it because each mint's $1,000. We're not obviously wanting to spend thousands and thousands and thousands giving back, but at the same time, finding new people that hear about us, kind of putting that gamified approach on, hey, we hit these goals. We want it to be a party the entire time throughout our mint and make sure that we keep that level of hype high. So the combination of credit card minting, new internal roadmap goals so people can see, hey, if we hit these mints, this is what it means for alpha shares. And also, hey, I'm going to shoot for that mint because if I mint number whatever, I'm going to get this back. So we've got a lot of that coming up. That's going to be announced over the weekend into Monday. And all goes live hopefully Tuesday.
That's some good information. So if you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe because we got the alpha information for alpha shares.
Absolutely. And you're always going to, man. Eric, you're the bomb. You're the man. So we're always going to make sure we give you that stuff first.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. So I know I think I saw this on the Discord, but you guys had posted something about an internal milestone, kind of what you alluded to about having, I think it was 1,200 mints, and then you guys could go on and start this process of building this Bitcoin mining farm, of building this antimony refining process. So is that essentially what you guys are aiming for? And then as you hit that 1,200 mint, then you guys are going to take the money out of the contract and then start deploying it? Or is the money already been deployed, or a portion of it has been deployed? If we just take a look at the actual contract address, we can see here there's about 209 or 210 holders now, and 1,129 mints occurred. So yeah, if you just want to talk a bit about the internal milestones that you guys have and exactly what's the process with the money there.
Sure. So to be completely transparent, at the current moment with the amount of capital that we have, I mean, we could very well get started on the initial deposits, the initial investments, if you will. We could easily just go use the money that the capital we currently have. I mean, we've deployed over $400,000 within our own operations to start things, and that's already been going down there, and that's been returned with these NFTs. We've since raised about $700,000 now with these mints over the past I guess 96 hours, or no, 100 and whatever 48 times 2 is. That's 96. That's 96 actually. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So over the past like 96 hours or so, I guess it's 97 and a half hours, we've raised about $700,000. And so that does enable us to be able to, no problem, purchase the land that we need, not only purchase the land, but make the improvements that we need, get the security in place, pour the slab for the first 40-foot container for mining, or for the Bitcoin mining, even purchase some ASICs. But not only that, it gets us to the point where us from a company perspective, we're very comfortable, because even if it takes, which obviously, as I've said many times from the beginning of this video, it's our goal to mint out as soon as possible. But even if it does take a long time to mint out, we are already set up and established to be able to deploy the capital to have a hosting facility, or even have the full facility ready. Maybe we don't have the funds to deploy all the miners we hope in there, but guess what? We have established over 10 megawatts of potential relationship for hosting, where that is scalable in and of itself. That's not something that necessarily is going to be factored into the rewards for these AMCR NFTs. But what it means from a comfortability perspective and confidence perspective of us and anyone holding these NFTs is, at the current moment, our operations could go live. There's nothing stopping us. We have enough capital to be a successful cash flowing company and business down in Paraguay. Do we have the capital to fully acquire our full 40-foot container with 305 miners plus the antimony operation? No, we don't. That's going to require the full mint out. But this $1.2 million milestone, so 1,200 mints, that is really where not only, like I said, at the current moment, we have the capital. That 1,200 is like a nice estimated even number that gives us a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of a margin. And that is when, the moment which we are right now securing or in the process of finding out which property, there's a couple, up being decided upon that we want to pursue. And the moment we're ready to go on that, then yes, once we hit that 1,200 mints, which it looks like it could very well happen today, we're ready to deploy it. That doesn't mean though that the moment we hit 1,200, we're deploying capital, because it's still a real world situation. We have to wait for different contracts to happen, and it's a typical real estate process down there. Still, there's a real estate agent and a broker firm you work with. We are going to be purchasing all cash, but it's not until we get to the point where that cash needs to be deposited that we're going to go and make those off-chain transactions. And so yes, 1,200 mints is where we are ready to go to get things started. We're very confident that even if, Ethereum, the whole network just died and we couldn't mint out the remaining mints, we're still going to be a cash flowing operation, and we'll be able to make those returns or those rewards back to the holders of the current NFTs. But as we expand, it's just going to grow things further. And so we're going to be putting other milestones on there that aren't as large as that first 1,200. That's obviously a really big milestone, but you need that big chunk up front to be able to get things kicked off. After that, we're probably going to do about every 250, maybe 500 NFTs. That's going to equal, and we'll denote as well. Again, it's not going to be very streamlined. We might say, hey, the next 500 is going to equal the ability to purchase the furnace and the shaker tables and the setup for the antimony. The next 500 is going to do this. I like to denote that so people can kind of see the baskets of what's going to be invested in. But again, as real world operations with timelines that aren't very consistent, we very well may skip around with those different milestones and those different baskets. So that's what we're going to put out, though. We want a little bit more transparency, people to see, hey, what do we hope to accomplish when we hit certain numbers? And that's what I'm working on. I've been working on that with Randy over the past couple of days, and all of this is going to coincide with the public round announcements.
Okay, I feel like I myself, I'm gonna have to re-listen to this AMA, jot down some notes, because there's so much information happening here, and I'm just thinking of so many different questions as you're speaking. So I'll definitely rewatch this. But so this brings me to, I know you guys had posted, and this was also some big news, I guess, that now the rewards from the BTC mining is actually going to be given out to holders of this NFT in wrapped Bitcoin. So I know there was a lot of news about that. So what exactly is the process? So you guys are going to be mining Bitcoin, then sending that over to an exchange or a contract, and then sending that over as wrapped BTC to anybody who holds an NFT. Is that kind of how it's going to go?
Yes. So there's a couple of reasons for it, and I'll be very transparent in it. I think that hiding anything is not a good actor. The reason why we did this was because, legal reasons. I'd love to be able to allow people to claim their rewards in stablecoin. There's just too much up in the air right now about what classifies a stablecoin as a security. Right now we're seeing different industries and different sections of government, or even sections of different industry agencies going after stablecoins, claiming that they're a security, when other agencies have claimed that they're not. And so instead of having a big air of uncertainty around what we're doing, one thing that has been stated is by Mr. Gary Gensler himself, and it has also been backed up by international agencies, is that Bitcoin is, and Gary Gensler said word for word, Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that is not considered a security. It is a commodity. And even the FTC has stated that Bitcoin is a commodity. They've even stated that Ethereum is a commodity. But then we even just saw 2 days ago, I think it was, New York AG, she went and filed a lawsuit against, I can't remember who exactly it was against, but it was incorporating Ethereum, stating that Ethereum is a security. And so there's so many things where you can fully and the reason they were classifying Ethereum as a security in that lawsuit was because of its lack of decentralization. And that is a very true statement. Ethereum is not very decentralized, and almost no EVM network, or any network for that matter, is truly decentralized except for Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And that being said, even with Bitcoin being truly decentralized, if you look at the number of miners and how concentrated the mining pools are with Bitcoin, there is a pretty small group of people that own a lot of the hashing power. And so that is something that is expanding, but Bitcoin being the only truly decentralized and marked as decentralized non-security offering, it allows us to comfortably allow people to claim that as their reward. because we're not offering any securitized dealings. There's no pass through of securitized tokens. And so that was the main impetus behind there. We did spend multiple 5 figures with money, with legal consulting and legal counsel, with an international law firm to make sure that we're good to go. They did a full legal audit. It's called a memorandum on our entire company, where they basically went through every single bit of documentation, our websites, our documents, our Gitbook docs, everything, FAQs, our Discord, and they wanted to make sure that everything is compliant and not seen as an international security. That is the main reason why we went with wrapped Bitcoin. The way that the process will work is we're going to be mining mainly Bitcoin. It's roughly an 85-15 split of 85% of the equipment is going to be SHA 512 Bitcoin miners, and then the 15% will be Kadena KA3 miners. All of the profits that are going to be mined in terms of the tokens that are mined post power expense is going to be converted on a centralized exchange into wrapped Bitcoin, because wrapped Bitcoin is on pretty much every single centralized exchange. And wrapped Bitcoin is fully one-to-one, if not over one-to-one collateralized with actual Bitcoin assets, and it's fully transparent on a ledger. You could verify it yourself, which made us very comfortable with this, which it's never going to go down. We're always going to be able to offer these wrapped Bitcoin rewards as close to a one-to-one, obviously minus our expenses from our operations. And so that's going to go from a centralized exchange converted into wrapped Bitcoin. And then we also recently announced that we are going to be allowing rewards to be claimed on an L2. So a lot of people were worried about claiming, let's say $20 in rewards and paying a $15 gas fee. There'd be no point in that. And so instead, what we want to do is allow for these NFTs to be seen across L2 chains, whether that's Arbitrum, Polygon, Optimism. Those are the three that we're looking at. And basically, because it's an EVM compatible chain, it's as simple as you click claim. The DApp is probably going to say, hey, switch to Arbitrum. And MetaMask pops up. You hit one button, you switch, and now you can claim for cents on the dollar. We're going to have full documentation and education on people that haven't used a layer 2, how you're supposed to do that. But that's how it's going to work. So the wrapped Bitcoin from a centralized exchange over to the layer 2 contracts, which will then allow them to be claimed for cents instead of dollars.
Yeah, because that was going to be one of my other questions, was that like we saw the spike in NFT or in Ethereum gas fees when the NFTs were minting. And exactly, if you get $20 and you have to pay $30 to get it, well, you're not being profitable, right? So there's no sense of doing that. So that's a really good solution from you guys to bring it onto an L2 so that, you're paying literally cents for it. So that's definitely good to hear. But now following that, so that's for the BTC and Kadena mining. So that's being transferred over to a centralized exchange, put into wrapped Bitcoin. But what about the antimony refining? Is that process similar?
Yeah, so same thing. That's just going to be fiat, though. That's going to be converted from fiat because we're establishing multiple banking relationships right now with both banks and centralized exchanges, both in Paraguay and in Panama, and most likely in a couple other countries as well. That's going to allow us basically to onboard any amount of fiat that comes from the antimony operations, convert it into wrapped Bitcoin.
Okay. Awesome. So this brings me to my next question, which we've seen the news over the last few days about USDC and what in the world is happening there. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that. But first off, are you guys doing anything about, because obviously your mints are in USDC on Ethereum. Right now, USDC is at 90 cents the last time I checked. So I believe it's going to go back up to peg. But again, it's crypto, anything can happen. So have you guys done anything in the last, 28 or 24 to 48 hours in terms of securing the money that you guys already have in mints? And if you guys have any plans going forward with USDC?
So that's a good question. Well, we've been monitoring the situation. I personally didn't expect, what happened yesterday to fully happen with PEG. That was a culmination of a kind of a perfect storm. Right now, it looks like, about $94, $95 or 94, 95 cents. And what we're
just to cut you off there. So if you're looking to buy an NFT right now, it's technically cheaper.
It's technically a 5% discount. Yes, you're right. And we actually saw we got like 15 mints over the past 12 hours. And I think that's people literally going and swapping into USDC and getting it for like a 10. I think someone got it for like a 20% discount. I swear someone got in at like 80 cents.
Right.
And to us, like, that's fun. Like, there's a lot of people screaming, like the fucking room's on fire. I don't know what to do. This is wild. But to us, the way that we see it is you have to look at it from a numbers game. You have to look at it from an actual legitimacy perspective. What is actually happening right now? And it was a perfect storm of the fact that everybody decided on a fucking Friday that this is what was going to happen. And not only did people that were debtors or people that had funds in SVP from a private perspective, from a VC perspective, and then from a tech perspective, tech company, massive tech companies, and then you get to the tech companies that are crypto based, right? So like they were, funding the majority of the Silicon Valley based VC backed tech companies that aren't Web3 based, they're Web2 technology, and they had pretty much every single person, account holder there, try to remove their funds at once. And it's a perfect storm. Everyone can look into exactly what happened. But what we have to look at for Circle specifically is how many funds did they have there, and what do those funds mean? What does it mean that the bank went bust? And now that the federal government has control over it, well, what does that mean? It means that $8.8 billion of funds that Circle had within SVP are still there, and they are not able to be claimed and withdrawn because they have gone bust. But what has happened is that 8.8 billion is FDIC insured. And so that means that 90% of what the funds are that are in there will be returned at the latest, the federal government said, by Monday evening. So that means that by Monday, maybe Tuesday, Circle will be able to fully recoup any funds that were not in circulation, be able to recollateralize the asset and repeg the token. So we're not worried about it in terms of the total impact that it has, that 10% of that 8.8 billion. I think that comes to like 1.5% of total circulating collateral, and they're going to be able to earn that back. I think it was in 2.5 or 3.5 weeks of interest. And so I'm not worried about it. I do think that this is an indicator that's beyond crypto. I think this is something that we should be looking out for in terms of an overarching financial crisis. But the way that I see it currently is it's definitely giving people a discount for USDC. We also do have the ability, we can click the button whenever to convert our mint to USDT. I don't like Tether in terms of, I was telling someone earlier today, it's more likely that what's happening with USDC is a joint attack by Tether and BUSD on USDC, trying to get you to pull out of USDC and put it into USDT just to further crap you, versus just staying and writing it out, right? And so that's where that's basically my 2 cents.
Yeah, and it's absolutely crazy. I mean, if USDC decides to not repeg and fail, I mean, crypto is going to be in a terrible situation if that happens. So again, I personally don't think it happens. We'll see how it plays out. But right now you can get about a 5% discount if you're trying to mint one of these NFTs. Or if you want to do some arbitrage, there's an opportunity there as well. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys. You guys do what you want. It's obviously not financial advice, but just play the game.
Well, and that ARB opportunity is what's going to cause this. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars here. We're not talking about something where it can just be wiped off the face of the earth because of high leverage. This isn't UST. This isn't Luna. This is very collateralized assets. And so just the arbitrage opportunity alone here will bring it back to peg, even if Circle doesn't do anything about it. Because think about it, right now, you have between so many different decentralized and centralized exchanges, people are making millions and millions of dollars today off of arbitration. And I'm like, what am I doing right now? So after this call, I'm going to start arbing, dude.
Yeah, I was seeing a bunch of Twitter threads last night, and I was like, oh, I could do this. I could do this. It's endless possibilities.
Absolutely. So I'm not worried.
So I just wanted to quickly go back to momentum because I'm a mass holder myself, and I have a few questions for you there. So as we know now, like the Bitcoin mining is going to go into wrapped BTC. It's going to be paid out like that. But what's going to happen for us holding mass in the singularities pool? Like, is it going to be the same process? Because right now you guys are paying out in BUSD. So if I just kind of show what's happening here, I own about 0.14% of the singularities pool on the BUSD side of things. I need to buy more, not financial advice. Then I'm essentially getting paid in BUSD, but now because you guys are going to be, doing that wrapped BTC, is it going to go into whatever contract that momentum has, and then it's going to be paying out in BUSD? So what's that looking like?
It's a good question. This is different. So the Momentum project in general is a different project, different company, different subsidiary, completely different ecosystem than Alpha Mining Co. So Alpha Mining Co. It, in terms of how it's structured, Momentum has invested about $395,000 into Alpha Mining Co. and it's been returned with 395 NFTs. The same as if an OTC, any other project went and said, hey, I want to buy 395 of your NFTs. That's how that works. And so Momentum owns these NFTs. Momentum will be claiming the rewards on these NFTs. And then with my current thought, and this might change with a community vote, there might be some people that actually would want to be able to, within Momentum, claim wrapped Bitcoin. But the initial thought is that it's going to be all these 395 NFTs are going to have claimable rewards that will be claimed by Momentum, the core team, and then those will be distributed to the Singularity, most likely having realized them as BUSD and then sending it to the Singularity. So it's different with the staking mechanism of the Singularity versus directly holding an NFT. Holding an NFT earns you wrapped Bitcoin. Because the brand of Momentum holds these NFTs, it doesn't mean that you within the Singularity earn wrapped Bitcoin, because that's not the point of the Singularity. The point of the Singularity is to single stake your MAS tokens to earn BUSD. You earn BUSD through the different production sources that the Singularity and therefore Momentum accomplishes. And so like that could be, with trading bot strategies, the trading bot strategies aren't only trading in BUSD, they're trading every which token. We've got 25 plus strategies. Those are all then being converted into BUSD and then sent to the Singularity. Same thing here with Alpha Mining Co.
Okay, good. So guys, if you are in mass Momentum, you're staking into the Singularities pool, most likely it's still going to be in BUSD and you're not going to have to do anything with wrapped Bitcoin and anything like that. So obviously some good news there. And I guess the last question I have is more about the KYC stuff. Like everyone that's purchased a Reserve NFT from the Alpha Mining Co., is it possible that in the future there's going to be a need for KYC? Or with the legal audit that you guys did, is everything clear and the holders of those NFTs are not going to have to ever KYC?
The goal for us is to never have to have them KYC, and it's almost impossible to do that, in arrears anyways. If you go and sell a bunch of NFTs and then require people to KYC, not only is that almost impossible, but I kind of think that's a little bit unethical. And so I think that no, the whole concept of decentralization, blockchain technology, blockchain in general being a transparent ledger of transactions and ownership, we don't need KYC. And the whole point of being able to view who owns what and how they got it, that is really what the point of KYC is. I think that it's still, even if you don't have somebody's first, last name, and address tied to a wallet address, you still know who's a good and a bad actor. Everything that we do, we've got an API functionality built in and built into our contracts for full OFAC searching, where basically anyone that is connecting to our DApp or connecting to Mint these NFTs, if they are a sanctioned wallet, a known sanctioned wallet under OFAC or any other three-letter agency, it does reflect and reconcile with a database through this API, and it will not let anybody access our site or Mint if they are sanctioned. And so the whole idea around KYC is to make sure that you don't have people that shouldn't be using your platform. Give me a second. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Using your platform. If you have people like that using your platform and you're kind of just, putting a blind eye to it and you're not doing what you can to help avoid that, well, then you can get into some issues. Everything that we're doing is to geo-block areas that are sanctioned countries: North Korea, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Russia, China. And then we're also not allowing wallets that connect to those to connect through something called chain analysis. That's the partner that we've factored their API in. And so those things combined have made it so that we don't want to KYC. We're not a security. We're not a regulated offering. If we were a regulated offering, we'd have to have KYC. One thing that I will denote, though, is that even though our rewards are being paid in wrapped Bitcoin, with the precedent around that being even Gary Gensler, SEC United States, he says that wrapped Bitcoin is not a securitized or is not a security. It's rather a commodity. That allows us to feel comfortable with really anyone claiming Bitcoin. At the same time, though, what we just spent a lot of money for from a legal audit perspective was for international law. That international law excludes the US and Canada. And that's just because not only do you have to spend a fuck ton more money with the US and Canada to navigate those waters, but also it takes a lot longer. And so we're doing everything that we can to make sure that we're fully set up and ready to be compliant and announce to the public, hey, we have gone through the checks and balances and make sure that under US and Canadian laws, we're compliant. We're not going to hit issues. Before we get there, though, we're not comfortable with saying that we're there yet. We can't.
Yeah.
There are plenty of other mining operations, though, that have no issue saying that they're offering their services to people within the United States. So to us, that makes us feel confident because no one's worried about it. But also with the amount of money that we're raising, the fact that we own our own facility, we have to maintain a high level of confidence and security. So at the current moment, our terms of service do denote that if you're within the United States and Canada, that you can't access the rewards. That means, though, that let's say you took a travel and you traveled to Mexico or you traveled somewhere else, I mean, then you can access your rewards. And so many people have workarounds for that, or they'll just go leave the country for a short period of time to claim. And many people know exactly what I'm getting at there. You don't actually have to physically leave the country. But the same thing plays in stake with like ApeCoin. So if you were staking ApeCoin, or if you had a Bored Ape or a Mutant Ape, or even a Zuki, or even a Doodle, all of them, all of the blue chip NFTs that are to be staked and earn a sort of yield, because it's so hard to navigate those waters in the United States because there's no precedent yet set, everybody is saying that they're excluding the US and Canada. We all know that people in the United States and Canada are still able to access it in certain ways with certain methods, and they're going to continue to do that. And that's something that we will do everything we can to make sure that we denote until we're comfortable. It's international, just not US and Canada.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do want to reference nonstop. Our whole focus is to make sure that can be globally compliant. Because at the end of the day, we're not a securitized dealing. We're not raising capital and telling people, which in many ways this is incentivizing, and it makes almost every project founder want to go out and tell people, hey, if you invest in us, word for word, if you invest in us, you'll own a share in our company, you're going to earn a share of our profits. Like, yes, that's great to say, and that could be the intent for every project, but you can't say that. And so what we say and how we have been, putting our materials together is you're not investing in our company as a shareholder that's receiving a fixed and promised return. No, rather you are purchasing this NFT. The NFT that you're purchasing is an access pass that allows you to claim rewards that are associated with our operations. Our operations are getting kickstarted and they're being funded and being built and developed with the funds that we raised from this sale. So it's not some sort of fundraising, structure. It's a sale. We are selling something. There's a single transaction where somebody buys this and that's it. It's a single transaction sale. We then have made revenue income from that sale that we can deploy into our own operations at our discretion. After we pay our taxes, after we stay compliant legally, we can take income that's left over and gift it to people as rewards in the form of Bitcoin. And this structure that we've pursued, it looks very compliant internationally everywhere. But again, I'm never going to go on an interview and say, oh yes, if you're in the United States, if you're in Canada, buy into what we have. So
Yeah.
hopefully I gave you confidence, but also I'm making sure that I walk that line.
Yeah. And since Tyler can't say it, so essentially if you want to physically stay in your house, there's a thing called a VPN, which you can use and access any other parts of the world. And then you're technically no longer in Canada or the United States. So with that being said, I think that concludes our AMA here. So thank you so much, Tyler, for joining on and answering all my questions. If you have any final words before we sign off.
Honestly, I want to thank you, Eric. You've been an amazing supporter of everything that we do. We've got a couple things up our sleeve that we want to support you back with. The fact that you've been, showing so much support for us over the past many months now. It's not just weeks; it's many months, and soon it'll be probably over a year. In terms of, I don't know when the first one. Do you remember the first video you ever made on us?
I can't remember.
Do
I
you
think it
remember when that
was
was? I
last
can't remember.
summer.
Yeah, I think it was last summer. It's probably like
Yeah.
May or
Yeah.
June or something like that. And
Around
so
that.
we're getting close. Yeah, we're getting close to that anniversary, man. So we're gonna
Yeah,
have
exactly.
to treat you up. But no, I just want to thank you for the space, always giving us the audience to talk in front of people. You're very professional in the way that you lay things out. And so no, in terms of if you're listening here and you're not someone that's whitelisted and you're wanting to get prepped and ready for Tuesday, well, I would say get that USDC ready in your wallet and get prepped. But you might not even need that if we've got that credit card minting in place. So stay tuned. We're doing everything we can to mint this baby out and get these operations going right away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tyler. And Tuesday is there a specific time?
It'll probably be 10 a.m. Well, that's actually, it's not 10 a.m. anymore. It'll be 12 Eastern on Saturday. So actually today, the time shift changed. So there's no more, or the daylight savings times just shifted today. So my time zones are all messed up, but it's going to be 12 Eastern.
Okay. So 12 Eastern,
Yep.
March 14th, which is next Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tyler. And I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.
Thanks, Eric.